Loneliness is an emotion we've all felt at least once in our lives. It's that sense of social isolation, when you don't feel like you belong anywhere. It's the awkwardness of moving to a new city, the feeling of being out of place when you're the new kid in a tight-knit group of friends, or the quiet hurt when you don't feel accepted or loved even in your own family. Loneliness can come and go, but chronic loneliness can turn into something more dangerous, like anxiety disorders or depression. Studies show it can even lead to heart and lung diseases. According to a report from the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, lonely people have a 26% higher risk of dying early compared to those with strong social connections. As social creatures, humans need connection through relationships. We can't survive as lone individuals like islands cut off from the rest of the world. But it's not just any relationships we need. It's quality ones, the kind with deep bonds, trust, and love. So why are these relationships getting harder to find? Back in the hunter-gatherer days, people had to live together in communities to protect each other from nature's dangers and boost their chances of survival. You can see this in how indigenous tribes in America, like the Navajo or Cherokee, lived in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. But then the Industrial Revolution hit, and people all over the world, including in the US, started leaving their small towns, moving to big cities like New York or Chicago to work in factories. Living in modern societies made people rely less on those around them and lean more toward personal independence. In small-town America, almost everyone knows each other. Neighbors help out when times get tough, bonds are strong, and when someone's got something good, like homemade apple pie or BBQ ribs, they're likely to share it. But in big cities, it's a different story. The whole idea of neighbors barely exists anymore. The more convenient and modern life gets, the more disconnected we become. Back in our grandparents' day, people would chat with neighbors on the front porch or drop off a plate of fresh-baked cookies. Now, a lot of us don't even know who lives next door, and if we do, we rarely talk. Everyone's caught up in their own busy lives, keeping to themselves, cautious and guarded. So why not just stay in the countryside? Why move to the city at all? The story of loneliness isn't that simple. First off, being lonely isn't the same as being alone. Some people have tons of friends but still feel lonely because they're missing that deep connection they crave. Others live with family or loved ones but feel stifled, suffocated, and unable to find the understanding or support they need. Loneliness pops up a lot in crowded places too, like at Super Bowl parties or weekend get-togethers, when you don't really feel at ease with the people around you, or when conversations stay shallow, stuck on stuff like the weather or football scores, never digging deeper. Second, young people are always itching to explore and learn. When they get the chance to leave their small towns behind and head to big cities like Los Angeles, or even study abroad, they gain new perspectives, broaden their horizons, and figure out where they fit in the world. We don't always get the freedom to chase our own paths, and loneliness might just be a symptom of something bigger, like moving to the city. The root of loneliness is something each of us has to unpack on our own journey. The world seems more connected than ever. The rise of the internet and social media platforms like Instagram and TikTok lets us make friends, find jobs, shop, and even date online with just a click. But this easy connection doesn't always make us feel more connected. Social media helps us find people we vibe with, but it also highlights how different we are from everyone else. It's a place where people show off and save their shiniest moments, like a Hawaii vacation or a fancy dinner. So scrolling too much can leave us comparing ourselves to others, feeling down or left behind. On another note, these platforms are constantly collecting data and analyzing what we do, then showing us stuff we want to see. Stuff that reinforces what we already believe. That's why social media can turn into echo chambers, trapping us in information bubbles. You'll stay stuck there unless you push yourself to ask questions and challenge your own biases. Some people avoid clashing or talking face-to-face with folks who think differently, and that builds up frustration. Some take it home and unload on their kids or loved ones. Others vent online, posting negative comments, tearing into people, thinking no one can hold them accountable for what they say or do. When someone clings too hard to their own views, building and keeping close relationships gets tougher. Listening, empathizing, and putting yourself in someone else's shoes is like a muscle. You've got to work it, or it weakens. But loneliness doesn't just hit people who struggle socially. Truth is, even the well-educated, the successful, the famous, like Silicon Valley entrepreneurs or Hollywood stars, feel it too. I don't know about your experiences, but I remember making friends as a kid was so easy. Share a Snickers bar or a soda and boom, you've got a buddy. School days were when friendships felt pure and carefree, before we started overthinking or calculating everything, when we still trusted each other fully. But over time, after changes and heartbreak, that trust starts to fade. Without trust, we get suspicious, assuming the worst about people. Suspicious folks put up walls, and that makes connection hard. So how could you not end up lonely? When every conversation or meetup is loaded with caution or defensiveness, opening up feels impossible. And without that, talks never go deep. To break this cycle, we've got to practice opening up and letting go of expectations. Social relationships are always risky. We might not click, we might disagree, we might misunderstand and hurt each other. But I say live fully, be kind where you can, and find joy in the simple stuff. Deep connections need flexibility from both sides, not just one. 2 streams of water can flow and blend together, but 2 rocks? They'll just crash and shatter. 2 stubborn heads talking are the same. Misunderstandings and arguments come easy. Rocks have set shapes, but water doesn't. A newborn kid is open and pure, but as they grow, they get molded, squeezed into adult expectations. By the time they're grown, they've got their own beliefs and biases. That's why a lot of people shy away from talking to anyone who doesn't think like them. They brush it off or assume they're right, the other's wrong, they're good, the other's bad. When we can't see issues from different angles or question our own biases, there's no room for common ground. You can see it in how divided society's getting. Republicans and Democrats in the US despising each other, one religion bashing another, one ideology clashing with the next. Modern life's churning out too many rocks, too much extremism, too many walls and rigid frames. Media loves to hype up or demonize the other side. Just look at Fox News and CNN going at it. When all we see is how different we are from everyone else, from them versus us, of course we lose touch with the world around us and feel lonelier. I used to be pretty stubborn and a bit extreme in my early 20s, but living far from home on my own showed me the downsides of that rigidity, both in myself and in others around me. I realized a problem doesn't just have 2 sides, it's got 182,000. Life isn't just black and white or even gray, it's thousands of shades. 1 + 1 isn't 2. Every issue out there is way more complex and layered than we think. Over the last 3 or 4 years, my views and thoughts have kept shifting based on new info I dig up, stuff I notice, or just my own experiences. The me from a year ago, a month ago, might not be the me today, and that's made me feel so much freer. Speaking of loneliness, the worst I've ever felt it was when I moved to New York to live and work. Back home, I'd still get lonely sometimes, sure. Those fleeting moments hit a lot, but they rarely stuck around long because I knew I could always find comfort. Friends, family, loved ones were there to listen and get me. But when I got to a place where I didn't know anyone and no one cared who I was, that's when loneliness really sank in. I'd still call family and friends back home, but some things are hard to share when they're not right there with you, in a different time zone. Or, most importantly, when they haven't lived through what you're going through. Especially those times when you're sick but still have to drag yourself out to the store, cook, and take care of yourself. That's a gut punch of a feeling. But without those moments, I wouldn't have grown. Drifting like that made me feel lonely, but also free, in a way that's hard to describe or pin down. Being alone gave me space to figure myself out. It's when I read the most books, tried the most new things. It helped me reflect on my own biases and immaturity, showed me how vital close relationships and love really are. It pushed me to fit in, to open up and connect with people around me. Some connections were deep and sweet, others were just work-related, but every encounter, every relationship gave me a fresh take on people and life. Every relationship has its own value, risks, and lessons. The biggest thing I learned? How to give time, attention, affection, without expecting anything back. That's not about pleasing people. It's about giving because it feels good. That stretch had plenty of rough patches, toxic moments with people that left me battered and in tears. I was seriously stressed for a while. But looking back now, what sticks with me are the beautiful memories. I remember when I left New York to visit home. 3 of my roommates got up at 4 a.m. to see me off and help lug my suitcase to the airport. I didn't even ask. I thought it'd be a hassle. But they insisted, took me there, saved me $50 on a taxi. Before I boarded, they all hugged me and cried. One friend from Japan wrote me a letter saying when she first got to New York, I cooked for her, talked with her, took her to Target for essentials, and bonded over loving Broadway shows. She really cherished me for that. It hit me. Human warmth is still out there. I believe anyone who's lived away from home has felt lonely at some point. And I think we've got 2 choices. 1, we shut down, cling to our ways, and bristle up to protect ourselves. Or 2, we learn to observe, accept, live more openly, forgive more, and love more. Not just others, but ourselves too. Here's a caveat. Loneliness can sometimes make people rush into picking a partner or spouse, desperate to fill that void with someone, forgetting that understanding and loving yourself starts from within. That sparks a chain of social issues. Unhappy marriages, domestic abuse, cheating, high divorce rates. In the US, about 40 to 50% of marriages end in divorce, per the American Psychological Association. Plus, more people staying single or marrying later in developed countries, and so on. I'll dive deeper into these in future videos. In the end, everything in the universe is linked. Even islands that seem far apart are connected deep underground. We might be different, but at our core, we're just humans craving understanding and love. Love's the most important thing. It's the key, and it starts with each of us. When's the last time you felt lonely, and how did you deal with it? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching this whole video. See you guys soon. Bye!